What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Something About Sports podcast. This is your host once again, Leon Edwards, back with another episode. This one is just going to be a celebration, man. I don't have anything else to do right now but to celebrate. I got a new setup. I'm working on a new camera. Sorry, I got that other side. I'm working on a new camera, but those of y'all that's going to do the video, I'm going to put the whole video up for this one. Y'all can see my new setup in the back. Still a work in progress. You got a little stuff going on, but we got a little something going, getting a little bit better scenery, getting a little bit better look for the background of the podcast, and for some more video content coming later, maybe even doing some live streams down here, and getting some of that stuff going too. But anyway, here to celebrate. The Kansas City Chiefs win Super Bowl 57 by a score of 38-35, the second Super Bowl title in 4 years, third overall for the franchise. And if anybody's being honest, we're at a point right now where we're just wondering when the next one's going to be. And nobody wants to get arrogant, nobody wants to get cocky or anything like that. But when you see what this team accomplished, what they did in this season, and when I'm going to talk about some of that here later, but when you see what this team did in this season, that's the conversation around the NFL at this point. It doesn't matter who's on this team. It doesn't matter what the personnel is going to look like. If Mahomes is here, if Andy Reid's here, which it seems like he's tired of people asking him about. Like, stop asking Andy Reid if he's here. The guy's coaching. He loves what he's got going on right now. He's got the best quarterback in football. He unearthed a crazy situation, and he's not walking away from it anytime soon because he can build that resume. He knows he's one of the best coaches of all time, and now he's in a position to build the accolades that back that up. And so he's not going anywhere. But as long as they have that, that's the conversation. Is when are they going to get back? When are they going to do this thing again? And so, man, it's definitely exciting. I know it's been a little while. It's taken me a couple of weeks to calm down, got the parade out of the way, got some other things out of the way. Got a chance to celebrate this a little bit, which was fun. It seems like everybody in Kansas City celebrated this one like the last one. It didn't feel like anybody felt entitled or felt like this was supposed to happen. This one still felt like, everybody felt like it's something that it just doesn't come around that often. Everybody was out. Everybody was enjoying this. Everybody was having a good time, and it was good to see. And so before I get into all of the specifics of the game and everything, for the Chiefs, because this is going to be Chiefs focused. But first and foremost, let me take my hats off to the Eagles. The Eagles, they played a great game. Jalen Hurts played phenomenal. And I've called myself a Jalen Hurts fan. I've talked about it on the podcast. I talked about it in my preview. And I even talked about it in my after game write-up as well. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, over on sasports.medium.com, I've started to do some written content as well. Check that stuff out. Talked about Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni quite a bit. I feel like both of those guys really showed something in this Super Bowl. I think Jalen Hurts really played to the moment. I think he had his superstar quarterback moment. He earned his check that he's going to get over this offseason. And also, I feel like Nick Sirianni, he stuck to who he was. He didn't, shrivel up in the moment. They got the fourth downs rolling. They controlled the time of possession. And they put pressure on the defense by running the quarterback, even with Jalen Hurts having his injury issues. And they gave him a chance to take shots down the field like they've done all season. So I just want to give the respect to those guys on the offensive side of the ball. Jalen Hurts played phenomenal. That's the best I've seen him play at the NFL level. And I'm a guy who's a fan of him. I think he had a great season. Best game I've seen him play in the NFL. The guy showed up, and that's with an injury as well. Jalen Hurts, he came in at less than 100%, He wasn't 100%. He had a broken clavicle in his throwing shoulder, so that is not something that's easy to play through. A lot of the talk was about Mahomes' injury, but I want to make sure we acknowledge Jalen Hurts' injury as well and the game that he played on that injury. He had a historic game. I think he's like one of the only quarterbacks of all time to have over 300 passing yards and 50-plus rushing yards. He's the second player of all time to have over 3 touchdowns. So I'm just saying this stuff from memory. I didn't put this stuff in my notes, but I put it in my written piece. So go check the written piece out. The specifics are in there about Jalen Hurts and all of that stuff. But that's from memory. 3 touchdowns. Second player ever behind, I believe it was Terrell Davis, to have 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. And that's as a quarterback. Just unprecedented stuff. The guy had a crazy game. All game long, he was locked in. He made every play he needed to. and showed his strength, showed everything about him. He was able to show his signature skills. He was able to show some things that a lot of people didn't expect him to show. So I just want to give my respect there, because not only did I really think he played a great game, I think he had a great season, and I think he's a good player. And I think he's shown multiple times throughout his football career that he's going to keep overcoming these obstacles. He likes that underdog role. He likes to be able to prove people wrong, and I think he's going to continue to do that. Nick Sirianni, shout out to you for sticking to your guns. It almost worked. You guys just went up against the most talented quarterback of all time, who's the guy who's going to finish his career as potentially the best quarterback of all time, but nobody's going to not say he's the best to ever do it as far as talent is concerned. Patrick Mahomes just had a game. Patrick Mahomes, on his injured ankle that he injured early, the rest of the team picked him up, and he did what he had to do. I'm not saying that he did this on his own by any means, but at the same time, I think some of the talk, I've heard a lot of people talking about that. The numbers don't jump off of the page. He didn't have crazy gaudy stats, but I think the guy he threw 6 incompletions. He barely made any bad plays. But what people forget about this game is that the Chiefs really didn't have the football. The Eagles controlled the time of possession. They went for it on 4th and short so much that they sustained these long drives, and the Chiefs really barely had the ball, and they had to be perfect in their opportunities with the football, and that's exactly what they did. And then on top of that, Nick Bolton makes the play of the game. So I guess before I get into specifics, because there's a lot of things I want to talk about, I did make notes. I know I've been making jokes and stuff about notes and not making them and stuff like that. I've had enough time to digest this game enough. I've made some notes. I'm sure we'll still have tangents. I'm sure some stuff will still come up that I didn't plan to talk about. But first, before I get into that, I want to talk about the officiating and the holding penalty. So my personal opinion of that situation, I think that was a holding, and I think that after, confirming that, all of the different video angles, after James Bradbury himself saying he was held, I think that it's a pretty clear holding penalty. And I think in that situation, you have to call it. Now, to go back to whether in that moment, were they officiating the moment differently than they officiated different moments throughout the game, that is an entirely different conversation. I have not gone back and tracked that specifically in this game. The only thing I really went back and tracked in this game was just how much people were actually slipping on the field when trying to get after the quarterback on both sides of the football. And for the Eagles, it seemed like it affected those guys quite a bit, a lot more than the Chiefs. But the Chiefs still had some situations where it looked like they weren't able to gain traction in certain places on the field. But I haven't gone back and tracked who was holding and things like that. But regardless, if there was an inconsistency in that, I don't think that is a reason to look at that play and say this lost you the game or this is the issue in the game, where you have to really take a step back and look at the process and really evaluate the officiating as a whole. We know that there's problems with the officiating, but I also feel like that one play didn't really cost the game. You're also in a situation where the Chiefs had to be perfect with their times with the football. They had to score every single time they had the football in the second half. The Eagles gave up a touchdown every single time. This was one of the best defenses in the league. This was supposed to be one of the best defenses we've seen in recent memory. And they continued to give things up. They gave up the longest punt return in Super Bowl history. There was a lot of things that led to this. Does anybody want to see a game end where a team might have an opportunity to do something special and they get it taken away by a penalty? Nobody wants to see that happen. And then especially for that to happen for the Chiefs for 2 games in a row, it happens in the AFC Championship game and then it happens again in the Super Bowl. For that to happen, it leaves everybody with the bad taste in their mouth as fans of the sport, as fans that want to see the best possible product, that want to see the best possible game. It's going to leave you with a bad taste in your mouth. I'm not opposing that. But I'm also not saying that in the name of that, I don't think we should just go on this campaign to not call anything because you don't want the officials to affect the game at the end either. Because you have a lot of situations where you have these obvious penalties that you have to call. The Saints and the Rams, that's an example that I brought up to multiple people, and they say it's not the same situation. But by that same logic, in that situation, the refs would have done what people wanted them to do because they didn't make that call. They didn't insert themselves into the game in that situation, in a very similar situation to this game. And the outrage is still there. And what I think is that there's going to be some kind of outrage on either side, and it's just going to be about how much evidence people can find to fuel that. Anytime the officiating is involved, anytime there's some questioning of the integrity of the NFL, there's always going to be a crowd, because that's just one of those conversations that gains and gains and gains by the year. And I'm not saying that I'm a full non-believer. I do believe that there are some weird things that go on in the NFL, and I believe that there's an officiating problem, but I don't think that it has anything to do with affecting the outcome for certain teams more so than if there was some kind of rig going on. I would much more believe it has something to do with the money, with the betting and Vegas and people with a lot of money on the games and things like that. But regardless, I don't think we can look at this game and say that one penalty lost the Eagles the game by any means. We can all say we hate the game ended like that. But the fact of the matter is the penalty was legitimate. It was at a big portion of the game. And if you go back and you watch that play, I mean, where the ball falls, if Juju's able to get there on time, it's probably a touchdown. He had Bradbury beat, and he knew he was beat, and he grabbed him. And that's the definition by law of a penalty. I actually even linked in my written piece to the page of the NFL rule book that talks about defensive holding. And I know that it sucks, and I know that fans of teams that, that have lost to the Chiefs, fans of teams that don't like the Chiefs, fans of the AFC West, fans of teams that are just tired of seeing the Chiefs win, they're going to let that game steam. They're going to continue to throw wood into that fire. They're going to continue to try to fan that flame in that conversation. We just can't entertain it at this point, because at the end of the day, there's always going to be something like that there. We can go back and we can point to games just this season that the Chiefs had affected by the officiating. We can point to that Chris Jones penalty against Matt Ryan, where he said whatever it is that he said, and got a 15-yard penalty that essentially gave the Indianapolis Colts that game. You fast forward a few weeks later, and that same picture, you can take a picture of Chris Jones talking to Matt Ryan and a picture of Max Crosby talking to Patrick Mahomes, and it was actually a little bit even more aggressive with Max Crosby that he comes to Mahomes, he slams up against his face mask, and he's yelling at him. You can put them together. One's a penalty, one's not. It's literally just an issue with the consistency of the officiating of the NFL. And until people stop watching it, until they are not able to make the amount of money that they're making off of it with the product as it is, as far as the officials, and able to pay them what they pay them and have the obligation to them that they have to them, as long as they're able to continue to make the money they're making and get these TV deals that they're raking in, they're not going to change it. It's not going to change. So we might as well get used to it. We might as well just buckle in. Anyways, I just wanted to address that first. That's one of the biggest topics of conversation around the Chiefs, and I hate that for basically a month now. You're talking about the entire conversation about the Chiefs is officiating and are the officials helping them and all of that. When you have the quarterback who right now today is one of the 5 best quarterbacks that have ever played in the NFL, who just won his second Super Bowl with a high ankle sprain, in storybook fashion almost. I mean, you talk about being 0-3 against Joe Burrow and everything stacked against him in that situation, having to do what he did, overcoming the injury, having to play the way he had to play in that game, to win that game with the receivers that he had at the end of the game, with the injury, go into the Super Bowl, still with that injury, not really knowing who's going to be available for you really, because the receiver situation for the Chiefs was so fluid over those couple of weeks. Get there, go up against one of the best defenses of all time. Well, not one of the best deep pass rushers of all time, not one of the best defenses of all time, but one of the best pass rushers of all time by the numbers. A lot of people would argue that now, because after seeing the Super Bowl and seeing them go against the top offense, didn't look like they were as vaunted as we thought they were. But regardless, this was a team that got after the quarterback. He had clean pockets all day, and he delivered strike after strike when he was needed to. And then in the biggest moment of the game, on a high ankle sprain, he delivers a 26-yard scramble that essentially seals the game for the team. And I don't really know how, it's frustrating. That's why I had to address that, because it's frustrating that doesn't get recognized at this point. This is a guy who's got 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl MVPs now, 2 regular season MVPs now. He's just building a case for one of the best, the best start to a career in NFL history, and already one of the best careers in NFL history. One of the craziest stats that I found, there's only 4 quarterbacks that have won a Super Bowl MVP, won a regular season MVP, and led the league in passing touchdowns. There's only 4 quarterbacks that have done that over the course of their entire career. Tom Brady, Kurt Warner, Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes did that this season. Everything he does from here on out is legacy building. Everything from here on out is legacy building. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a top 5 quarterback. You can put his stats, his accolades up against anybody else all time, his highlights, whatever it is you want to do. And for whatever criteria you want to do, the only criteria that you're not going to get is just as a pure runner off of speed. Anything else, put it up against anybody else all time. He's better or at least as good as them. Everything from here on out is a legacy builder. And I'm not just saying that because he's the quarterback of my team. I'm saying that because it's the truth. The guy has just accomplished things we haven't seen. We've been talking about Aaron Rodgers as one of the most talented players that we've ever seen. And before Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers was the best quarterback that my 2 eyes had ever watched from a talent perspective. I don't know if anybody was smarter than Peyton Manning as far as just diagnosing the defense and being able to dictate a game and figure out a way to win and figure out a way to beat the defense. But Aaron Rodgers, the talent, the way he could just roll out of the pocket, he always knew the lane to get out of the pocket. He could flatten at the line of scrimmage and buy time and run back and forth at the line of scrimmage and just deliver laser after laser after laser. It was amazing to me. I've never seen anything like it. And Patrick Mahomes already has accomplished more in his career than Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has more MVPs. Aaron Rodgers would trade in all of those MVPs for more Super Bowls, I would guarantee. Well, actually, Aaron Rodgers may be one of the only quarterbacks all time that may say no to that question. So I want somebody to ask him that. Let me not speak for Rodgers. There's a lot of other quarterbacks all time that could have won five MVPs and 1 Super Bowl and would trade in all of those MVPs to win another one. I'm sure of it. I'm sure most quarterbacks all time will trade that in. But I don't know about Rodgers. He's a little bit different. He just came out of his darkness. Let's see what he would say to that. Somebody ask him that question if you can get in touch with him. But this was a legacy game for Patrick Mahomes, and it adds to it. The high ankle sprain, the ankle game, whatever you want to call it, this adds to the legacy. This adds to his legacy, and I think that's pretty much and you know that's going to be going forward what it is. Like right now we're at a point that it's an event. It's going to be an event the first time Patrick Mahomes doesn't make an AFC championship game because that's the expectation he set for himself, and he could go into a season, he could throw for 6,000 yards. He could throw for 60 touchdowns. He could win the MVP. And if he loses in the divisional round, if he loses in the wild card round, there will be people that call his season a failure because he did not make it to the AFC Championship game where he's been every year. And that is the precedent he set for himself. And when you look at it from a view like that, that everything that this guy does at this point is just it's to his legacy. And so it'll be fun to look back on these moments. It'll be fun to look back on these conversations and, you know, all of the talk about him losing Tyreek Hill and this new portion of his career, this new era for the Chiefs after Tyreek Hill. So many people doubting them. So many people thinking they may not ever make a Super Bowl again. I know a lot of people now are trying to they're trying to say the Chiefs are gaslighting people. They're making it up that nobody believed in them. People did not believe in the Chiefs. People said it was over. People said it was done. It was everywhere. That was the conversation. People said that the Chiefs would finish last in the AFC West. The Chiefs wouldn't go to another Super Bowl. I mean, it's just there's just loads and loads of it. It's out there. I don't know how anybody can look it up and see that and build a narrative that there weren't doubters. People thought it was over. And for him to come back, win a Super Bowl in that next year, that right there solidifies him as the best quarterback in the NFL right now, one of the best of all time. And the conversation really, it starts with Mahomes, and you might as well just start talking about who's second. When we're doing comparisons, you talk about Mahomes and where he's at in his legacy building and how close he is to catching Tom Brady and whoever else other people want him behind. But everybody else, you compare them to one another for who's next up after. Because right now it's just his league, and we've got to accept that, and we've got to see how long he can keep a stranglehold on this thing. So just another legacy built, another great performance. At this point, we're running out of things to even say about the dude. We're running out of even he's just going to keep creating things for us to acknowledge and for us to be in awe of at this point. And it's just super fun to see. And even more fun to see that after that, he can let loose and play hard and have a great time at the parade. I know some people didn't like that, but I thought that was great because that is what life is about to me. You work hard, you try to reach your ultimate goal, you reach that ultimate goal, and you celebrate it like you've worked your whole life to get there because you have. If I reach my ultimate goals, I reach the points that I want to get to in life, you better believe I'm celebrating it like I worked my whole life to get there because what else did you work for other than to celebrate those moments? And so I'm excited that they got a chance to do that. And I'm excited that they did it their way and they had a good time. So just big time legacy builder for Mahomes, but it was a legacy builder for a lot of guys. Andy Reid, I think, has already solidified himself as one of the best coaches of all time, one of the best offensive minds of all time. But this game fully cements that. All of the top Mount Rushmore guys have multiple titles, but also in that you had moments in this game of brilliance, of Andy Reid brilliance, and you just continue to see that. And you saw the Chiefs after halftime start getting under center, mixing in some bully ball, letting their offensive line get downhill, and mixing in things that the Eagles probably didn't prepare for. And so, those small, subtle things like that aren't going to be things that are talked about a lot, but those are the types of things that make Andy Reid great. They're the types of things that make Andy Reid the offensive coach that he is, that make him the winner that he's been. And this Super Bowl just cements his legacy there. And from here on out, now it's just icing on the cake. Let's see how many more he can get. Let's see how much more success he can rack up. And I'm excited that he's gotten a chance to build this. Andy Reid built this. Andy Reid built this from the ground up. And now he's getting a chance to enjoy it. And I hope he gets a chance to continue to build and continue to rack in the accolades and rack in all of those things that'll help him climb that coaching tree, help him climb his way to the Mount Rushmore where I think he belongs. He's just going to take a couple of more titles, some more runs, and some more accolades to get there. But hell of a run by Andy Reid. I'm so glad that the Eagles fired that guy and that the Chiefs were able to get him. It's been nothing but fun and success since then, and I'm glad that he's been able to build a legacy here as well. Travis Kelce, now you can start putting Travis Kelce in the best tight end of all time conversations, and it doesn't sound crazy. This is a guy who has better regular season numbers than any tight end of all time, better postseason numbers than any tight end of all time, and at this point now, it's just about same with these other two guys. Is how far can he go? How many more championships can he get? How many more years for Travis Kelce of elite production? How many more 1,000-yard seasons can he put together? Double-digit touchdown seasons can he put together? But this is a guy who now, it's hard to keep him out of that. He's a guy who belongs in that conversation. He belongs up there with the Grunks and the Gonzalez's and the Gates. Kelce belongs in there too. I guess we just got to break a K in there because it's all G's right now. I guess we got Winslow too, but he belongs in there with all of those names that people put in there as the backbones of the tight end position. Travis Kelce has revolutionized the position the exact same way, and he's one of the best to ever do it. And he looks like he's got a lot left in the tank, and he's in a great situation to continue to produce. So I'm excited for him as well. And then Frank Clark, as a postseason performer, has built up a legacy. Frank Clark's one of the best postseason performers as a pass rusher of all time. And so this is just another legacy builder for him, getting a chance to play in another playoff game, getting a chance to win another ring. If he sticks around Kansas City, he no doubt is going to play in some more playoff games and hopefully get a chance to climb his way up that ladder more. And having those Super Bowl rings at the end of that is going to validate being one of those guys at the top of that list. And so postseason games for Frank Clark are legacy builders. Chris Jones right now, he's building the Chiefs legacy. And I think he's right now is quietly building a Hall of Fame legacy as well. And everything that he does from here on out is going to help him gain that status. This is a guy who's been an all-pro now more than once. He's continued to produce at an elite level for a sack guy. He's top 5 in sacks in his team's history. He's going to be a Chiefs Hall of Famer, no doubt. But he's a guy who, if he keeps this elite production up for the next few years, could carve his way into being a Hall of Famer. He's a Defensive Player of the Year finalist for a second time in his career. He's one of those guys that, he's been flying under the radar. He's finally kind of starting to get his flowers now. But those stats are there and they don't lie. And he's going to continue to build that legacy up as long as he's here as well. And the postseason is a big, big boost in the Football Hall of Fame status. When you do great things in the postseason, when you're a big-time winner in football, that helps you get that gold jacket. And as long as he's in Kansas City and they continue to win, they continue to make playoff games, and now he's got that sack monkey off his back, he can start to produce. This is a guy who's going to continue to build his legacy as well as a postseason performer, and that's going to help vault him into that gold jacket conversation. And then the last legacy game for this game, Steve Spagnuolo had a chance at a legacy. I wrote about that in my Super Bowl preview with, as the Giants defensive coordinator, shutting down the Randy Moss and Tom Brady Patriots and having a great defensive scheme, getting after the quarterback in that game. He had a chance to do that again to a dynamic offense, but that offense really just was able to have their way. And I think that was just much more about Jalen Hurts and how good those guys were playing than it was about this defense by any means. The guys made plays in certain situations. You got a touchdown out of your defense. You got a second one that in some games may have counted. Some games would have gotten called back. In this game, it got called back. So he had a chance to build a, bigger legacy, but this is still a three-time Super Bowl champ now as a defensive coordinator, and that still speaks to something. And then, so as far as the legacy games, we're kind of that's kind of all of the legacy building kind of stuff. All of those things are I kind of touched on those. And then one of my favorite elements about this, and one of my favorite elements about every Chiefs Super Bowl so far, has been kind of you leave that with a signature play, a signature call, or, something like that. And in this instance, you had the corn dog play, and, you had 65 toss power trap from the first Super Bowl ever for the Chiefs first Super Bowl victory, the Lynn Dawson days. And then you had the jet chip wasp from Super Bowl 54, do we have time to run the wasp? And then you got this corn dog play that, for me, when I tell you guys during the Super Bowl, and I want to, honestly, I wish my wife was here during the day, but I wish my wife was here because I would bring her down here I would just say, tell everybody how I acted when we saw the corn dog play. She knows it's corn dog now. I literally saw Kadarius Toney start coming across my, here we go, because I've talked about this a lot this year. The jet sweep has been major for the Chiefs in the red zone. It's their red zone go-to. And if you have one of your guys that can do that, Kadarius Toney or McCole Hardman, the offense is entirely different when they've had those guys available. And you see Kadarius Toney making his way. Then you see him start coming back. I'm like, they faked it. He's open, jumping up and down. Oh, my God, what a call. I was so hyped because, if it got me, it got them. He's wide open, walk-in touchdown. And it was a thing of beauty. And then it happens again, and you get Sky Moore on the other side. Same thing. Come down, he turns back, wide open, touchdown. And it's just, man, what a call. And that right there, I'm like, Andy Reid. That right there is what solidifies it for Andy Reid, because all season long, and not even just this year, really, since the Tyreek Hill, young Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman days, even back to DeAnthony Thomas, he liked doing this with. And why can I not think of the guy's name? He's Joe McKnight. Rest in peace, Joe McKnight. He was a guy who had a little bit of a role doing that. He was one of the early adopters of the Andy Reid jet sweep in Kansas City. these guys, he's done this for years and years. And for that to be a killer and for that to be such a difference in the offense this year, for it to be so noticeable when those guys were available and when you weren't able to run that action in the red zone, and for you to be able to pull that out in the Super Bowl and get 2 wide open touchdowns out of it, it's just a thing of beauty. So the corn dog lives forever. At least in this household, I'll probably get some kind of diagram or something of the corn dog play somewhere, because that's just insanity. Insanity. And then later on to hear Andy Reid and the rest of these guys give credit to Eric Bieniemy for finding it on the Jaguars tape when they played against the Eagles, and then them installing it, and Andy Reid, revealing the name of the play. And I can't remember who he was talking to, and I feel horrible now, but he's saying no, like he actually calls corn dog in the huddle. And now you get the mic'd up and you hear him call corn dog. It's one of those moments. It's a great, great moment. But from the time that play was run, I already knew it was going to be one of my favorite moments in Chiefs history ever. And for it to be to Kadarius Toney, who you guys who have been listening, you know how adamant I have been about Kadarius Toney being a big, big part of this offense in the playoffs. Like, that was my guy coming into the playoffs. I just felt like there were so many different things that he could do in so many different ways, and Andy Reid could use him. And to see him step up in that moment and after his punt return, it was just a thing of beauty, man. It was great to see, and it was fun to watch. So now we go from 65 toss power trap to jet chip wasp to corn dog. And corn dog lives on in Chiefs history and NFL history, just like those other two do as well. And I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but Darius Slay actually talked about that. He did like a breakdown. I don't know if it was for a podcast or something. I just saw a clip of it, but he talked about it like they killed with the jet sweep all season. They do the comeback, and it out leverages us and kills us, because we're planning to pass it off. That's how we plan to do it. We talked about this because this is what they do in the red zone. So like he talks through it as well and talks about how good of a play call it was too. And so that's just, those are some of those small moments, intricate things that come out of games that not a lot of people have appreciation for, but for that play to be called what it is, and, us to get another food joke out of Andy Reid after we got the cheeseburger one after the last Super Bowl, and then for it to be a playoff of one of the most vital pieces of the Chiefs offense all season, and for it to, lead to 2 wide open touchdowns in the Super Bowl, and then to find out it's a film discovery by Eric Bieniemy, who now is a 2-time Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator under Andy Reid, who, nobody else has won a Super Bowl under Andy Reid as an offensive coordinator, and plenty of other guys have gone on to get head coaching jobs, and he's the one guy who hasn't been able to. It was just nice that, now that he's gone on to Washington, but that was a nice feather in his cap to say, like, just in case you guys forgot that I shouldn't be having to do this, here we go again. And that was a nice feather in his cap, a nice touch for him. But I wish Eric Bieniemy the best of luck. I talked about that in my Super Bowl recap as well, if you guys want to read about that a little bit more. But this is a man who should be a head coach. This is a guy who's earned his stripes. He's done his duties. From working with Adrian Peterson in Minnesota, from being the guy who helped get Kareem Hunt off the ground here. He worked with Shady McCoy and not Shady McCoy in Philly, Dawkins, Westbrook, I believe his name is Brian Westbrook. Why am I drawing a blank on this guy's name? Westbrook in Philly. He's got Adrian Peterson in Minnesota. You got Kareem Hunt. He was squeezing, stuff out of Sarkandrick West and Spencer Ware. And, he's turning Kareem Hunt into the NFL rushing leader as a rookie, and just doing crazy things as a position coach, doing crazy things as an offensive coordinator. I wish him well in Washington. I hope things go well for him there. He's able to catapult that into a head coaching position that he's definitely earned. And then another thing from this Super Bowl that, jumps out when you watch it is just the number of rookies that are out there playing and the number of rookies that make an impact. Sky Moore scores that touchdown, which his first NFL touchdown. It's fitting that it came in the Super Bowl. After 2 weeks prior, he makes, I guess it would have been the most important Chiefs punt return in the history of the franchise. But, now Kadarius Toney in the Super Bowl a couple of weeks later puts one up that rivals that. But, one of the biggest plays for a malign situation for Sky Moore 2 weeks prior, he goes out, he scores a touchdown in the last game of the season, his first touchdown as an NFL player. Just just a huge impact by those guys. You saw Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams and Brian Cook and Trent McDuffie, all these guys in the secondary playing significant snaps, making plays and being around the football. And so, just continuing to see these. George Karloff is another one. I don't want to end without shouting him out. Leo Chenal actually made some huge plays in the running game. Leo Chenal was really good in this game as well. He jumped off the page in his snaps that he got. So just it makes you excited going forward for this Chiefs team. I mean, if there was ever a Chiefs roster or a team that shouldn't have won the Super Bowl for the Chiefs, it was this one. You got all these rookies playing snaps. You just traded away Tyreek Hill. You don't really have a superstar receiver or anything like that. Travis Kelce's injured. Patrick Mahomes is injured. And these guys just go out there and do what they do. And so it's just fun. It was fun to see these guys grow all season, and it was fun to see that culminate in them being a legitimate contribution to a Super Bowl team and a championship winning team. And that's fun to see. And it'll fun to see these guys build off of that momentum, because now you talk about 2 years ago, you got a draft class that hit. A lot of guys hit, and these guys have grown into leaders of the team. And now you have another round of guys that are going to grow into leaders of the team. Karlaftis is going to be a leader of this team. Trent McDuffie is going to be a leader of this team. These guys are going to be leaders as well. So it's just fun to watch their development, fun to watch their growth. And it was great to see it end up in a game that they were able to impact and help the Chiefs get a victory in. And then also, the ending of the game. The Chiefs won by 3. You went on a game-ending field goal by Harrison Butker, essentially a game-ending field goal. You got a Hail Mary out of the Eagles. But for Harrison Butker, with all of his struggles this season, with everything that's going on, with his struggles even with his struggles even early in the playoffs, having some issues in the playoffs, for him to end the game and for it to come down to him, have no issues, in the game on his leg, win a Super Bowl, second Super Bowl. It was great to see and great to see that kind of last little monkey off your back, that last little, thing that people could talk about. One of those negatives about this season, one of those things that continue to kind of plague this team a little bit, and to see them have an opportunity to get another one of those things off their back and end the season with a field goal was awesome as well. So this was just a all-around team victory, their second one in a row, and it just makes you excited for the future of Chiefs football. It makes you excited for where this team is going. You don't know exactly what all of it is going to look like. You don't know who's going to be here, who's going to be the main guys. You don't know all of that stuff, but now that you've seen this massive turnover and you've seen this integration of so many new players and so many new personalities lead to a Super Bowl this year, I don't think it matters too much to Chiefs fans anymore. I think you just kind of roll with it, and you see who's on the roster, and you see how they figure it out as the season goes on. So this second Super Bowl, I think, is probably the one that's going to kind of lift that chip a little bit for Chiefs fans, allow us to relax, allow us to trust that process as they build it throughout the season. There's going to be new groups. There's going to be new teams. There's going to be new, weapons and new defensive players and all of those things, but they'll figure it out. They'll make something work, and they'll figure out a way to win football games. And that's one thing that I think that they've proven to us. They've proven to the NFL, and I think they'll continue to do so. So just great. Something that I didn't think I'd ever be able to see as a Chiefs fan, honestly, growing up and, going to games that nobody was there, not being able to watch games on TV, just some of those situations, seeing how we lost some of those playoff games, losing to Andrew Luck where he fumbles it to himself, or, where they come in that game, they come all the way back from being down like 25 points or whatever it was. I don't even want to think about it. But you have the Mariota throwing Darrelle Revis, hitting the ball back to Marcus Mariota, and he runs in for a touchdown. You just have had some brutal moments as a Chiefs fan. So to sit here and be celebrating your second Super Bowl in 4 years, and to know that you have the best quarterback and player in the game right now, and you have one of the best things going in all of sports, not even just football, it's almost unreal. And it's been a fun ride. It's fun to get to celebrate another championship. This is my second team I'm getting to celebrate in a row. I got to celebrate the Jayhawks last year, and now we get the Chiefs. And I think that it's safe to say we can expect some more of these from the Chiefs. And I think all of them will be just as sweet. They'll all have their own unique stories. They'll all have their own unique ups and downs and those things that we can talk about and those things that we can always remember and hang on to. But just from a fan perspective, you guys, like, don't ever take this for granted. I know it's fun. I know at this point now we expect it because we have the best player. We have one of the best organizations, and we've got that momentum going, and we expect it. But don't ever take it for granted and appreciate it every time it comes around. I'm going to try to make my way to the parade every time. I'm going to appreciate every time they go to the Super Bowl and appreciate that process. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that I don't want our fans to get away from, because that's one thing that's made Chiefs Kingdom what it is. Our genuine love for NFL football and just watching our team play. We were out there watching them play when they weren't good at all, when they didn't have a chance. So we want to still keep that same genuine love for it. It doesn't matter if they win the Super Bowl or not. We're going to be out there supporting them and loving the game anyway, because that's what we've always done. And so I want Chiefs Kingdom to keep its essence, because that's one of the things that makes us one of the best fan bases in the league. Keep celebrating, keep enjoying. I'm sure we'll have some more stuff to come. I'll try to figure out a fun way. I celebrated the KU one with some sound bites and kind of clipping together some things. I'll try to figure out some kind of fun way to commemorate this Super Bowl. If I'm being honest with you guys, it's only still partly set in. Like, it's crazy. It's just so crazy to me that the Chiefs won another Super Bowl. And this is one of the best Super Bowl hats I've ever seen. As soon as I saw it on the stage, I'm like, I got to get that one. Love it, but it'll probably get put on ice here shortly and put away just to save for the memories. But yeah, that's it for this Super Bowl chat. Like I said, I'm sure I'll find another way to commemorate this. We got the whole offseason now. We got some other offseason news to talk about that I'll get into over these next couple of weeks. I put on Twitter today, if you guys didn't see it, I'm starting to do some writing over at Chiefs Focus, chiefsfocus.com, at Chiefs Focus on Twitter, Chiefs Focus on Instagram. I'll have some written pieces over there. I've got my own written pieces, sasports.medium.com. Check me out over there. So a lot more Chiefs content's going over to the Chiefs Focus side. You want to see some more? I've got a John Morant story coming out this week. I've got a Jalen Wilson story coming out either end of this week or next week. So I'll have some more diverse stories as well that I'm doing over on Medium, and then the Chiefs stuff will be over on Chiefs Focus. You guys make sure to check that out. It's a lot of good content coming out over there every day. I appreciate you guys for listening. We got some KU hoops to talk about. KU basketball's rounded into form, so be on the lookout for that. I'll probably do a game day, if not before then. I want to rewatch a couple of games and get locked back in. I've been so Chiefs focused and everything, and getting everything in line with that. But it's time to lock in. It's almost March, so a lot of KU stuff coming you guys' way. Starting with that Jalen Wilson story, probably next week. You guys be on the lookout for that. I appreciate you guys so much for listening, continuing to support, continuing to engage with me. If you guys have questions, anything you want me to talk about, reach out. Thank you so much again for listening, and until next time.